Welcome to Unshakable with Human Design, the show dedicated to helping entrepreneurs use human design to shift from hustle to flow without sacrificing results. Come here to become an unshakable human and build an unshakable business according to your human design. I'm your host, Nicole and Laino. Hello and welcome to Unshakable with Human Design, everybody. I'm Nicole and Laino, your host. I'm here with my good friend, Christina Luna. We're here for the February transit episode, and I'm very excited, as always, to be sitting here with you, my friend. Hello. How are you doing?
Hello, I am so good. There is so much to talk about February. I cannot wait to completely dive in.
Short month, lots of things happening.
Yes.
Yes. So I'm actually going to toss it over to you first because you had so much that you were saying before we hit record. You were like, I have all of these talking points. I have these things. So I'm going to just hand it over to you for you to kick it off. And then I'll take that cue from you.
Okay, thank you. Wow. I think the reason why I have so many bullet points today is because we have the new moon and the new moon in Aquarius and Mercury in Aquarius and the year of the snake kicking off and then Uranus moving direct tomorrow. And there's just been so much happening this week. And this week energetically is a week where we are moving from choppy waters to a new world. And those choppy waters, I recorded something 2 days ago about how January was really emotionally choppy for a lot of folks, maybe physically choppy for a lot of folks. I described it as, in a river, how some of the edges of the river will get these eddies and you'll have the water swirling and swirling and swirling and the debris gets stuck in these little eddies. I believe that January was a month that identified those eddies within us through certain circumstances so that we could actually clear the debris from the eddy and begin getting the flow moving back into the flow of the river. And so there were probably several different types of circumstances that you or people experience in the month of January that would have really disrupted the comfort zone of the eddy. And comfort zones are beautiful. I'm not saying we should always be uncomfortable, but we saw a lot of destabilization on many, many different scales in the month of January. And even this week, as we speak, I'm talking to a lot of people who are experiencing physical illness, feeling really sick. And even that is like an opportunity for the physical body to identify certain stagnations within that are surfacing those stagnations and getting the body flowing and moving the lymphatic system so that the body can hold a higher frequency. And we're seeing this on every scale. We're seeing this on a physical scale of the body, the physical body being prepared to hold a higher frequency. We're experiencing that from the emotional level. So emotional eddies disturbed. We're seeing it on the mental level, like beliefs that we thought. You and I talked in the last transit reading about certain beliefs around that midpoint being challenged and expanded, and noticing when we have beliefs that would limit our experiences. So we saw belief eddies being dismantled. And then energetically, we're also undergoing a massive frequency upgrade. And so I'm really excited to talk about February because I think the energy of February will be much different from the energies of January, because January prepared us for what we're going to embark on in February.
Yeah, January to me, it did feel like there were many months or many different themes throughout the whole month of January. I've felt like there has been a progression. I have felt like, to me, it was different. I'm thankful it didn't feel super choppy to me in the sense of like where it felt disorienting or like I wasn't moving. There was just this sense of, oh, and now we're in this different place. I felt distinct shifts within myself, like week to week throughout January. And we should say we're recording this actually on the Lunar New Year. We are now moving into the year of the snake, which I don't know much about. I know you know more about that stuff than I do. So I'm going to defer to you on that one if we want to give them a little bit of an overview of what it means to be in the year of the snake versus the year of the dragon last year. Is this the wood snake as well?
Yeah, it's a wood snake. I'm so happy you asked me about this. So I've done a lot of deep work on the snake serpent archetype. The serpent has ancient meaning and roots. Our relationship with serpent energy has definitely taken some twists and turns throughout human consciousness. And in order for myself to understand that body of work more fully, I had a snake, a physical snake in my life for a short time, because I wanted to understand the energy of the snake on a tangible level. And the fact that this is a wood snake year, I believe really speaks to that tangible experience of snakes. And so anyone who's ever held a snake or been in close proximity to a snake will understand how very sensitive the snake feels with its entire being. It feels subtle vibration. It's very slow, actually. What I noticed is that serpent energy is so belly to belly with the earth that it can feel the deep rumblings of things that we normally would overlook. And snakes are so very careful, attentive, present, and gentle. They're so aware, and they don't make a lot of meaning about things that are not tangibly being experienced. It is not about all of the story and all of the context and it is just so acutely present to the instinctual self. And so we have this shift from dragon to snake. And I believe that dragon energy of last year was this internal fiery transformation. I think that it was more present for us maybe in the throat chakra than in the base chakra. And when I say throat chakra, I'm speaking to a body of work that has to do with temples of initiation. And I believe the temple of initiation that we moved through during a dragon year was one that had us understanding how much power we have, how much power our words have, our decisions have, how much power we actually have running through us as creators. And so I think last year was a year of taking deep responsibility for our creative creator and destroyer force. I think it got us into right relationship with our ability to create and destroy. And now that we have emerged into the snake year, we can actually take all of that understanding and power and take it down to the simplest dimension of presence, the simplest stillness. Sometimes the most powerful things we can do is just to be still and to feel what's actually happening in the present moment. And from all of that awareness, begin moving very deliberately and carefully in the direction that we want to go. And so the fact that this is coinciding with Uranus also moving direct in Taurus. Taurus is a fixed earth sign. So we have Uranus moving direct literally on the 30th of January. So it's just moved direct. What Uranus does is it disrupts, it sends a vibration deep into the earth that is felt then by our presence. And with adequate amounts of acknowledgement of our power, we can be still enough to feel the deep vibrations of the current moment, which I was in a conversation this morning with someone. I have friends that sit at tables that you and I don't even know exist. And I'm so fortunate that these friends will tell me things about what's going on in the world that I would never find out any other way, right? And I guess big moves are going on behind the scenes right now that are changing funding and resource streams for lots and lots and lots of different things right now. And these resource changes could feel very surprising for a lot of organizations, very surprising. Withdrawal from certain comfort zones where people have previously received resources, withdrawal from those comfort zones, throwing them into a different state of flow, because without the anchoring of certain resources, we are thrown into novelty and newness and unknown. And we've been talking every single month since October, we've been talking about the bliss experiment and how when we're thrown into newness and novelty, it gives us an opportunity to step out of the collective consciousness, the collective flow, to step out of some of the comfort zones that keep us in neutral. I believe that some of the changes that are going on right now are pushing us so out of neutral that we're finding new ways to be deeply present and deeply supported and sustainably resourced that we would never have chosen if we weren't thrown into chaos, so to speak. And so a lot of us may be feeling opportunities or circumstantial thrusting into unknown experiences right now. And as if we've cultivated the power of the dragon to be still like a serpent and to move with presence, these changes will not impact us in a way that will take us out of our grounded truth.
Yeah, one of the things that I don't know if this coincides with the deeper meaning of the year of the snake, and when we think about it in terms of the year of the snake, when I think of snakes, I think of focus, that they are very much paying attention, it seems, because they're able to strike, they are very sensitive. And that comes from their ability to have their focus be very targeted, yet also all around them. And if we take that as our inspiration for this, if we take that kind of as our inspiration for this, because I've been doing a lot of thinking about, and you talking about going from the dragon and how the dragon taught us something and now we're here. And if we can take those lessons and apply them and now learn to be a snake and now take on the energy and the characteristics of the year of the snake are bringing us, then it's the evolution. It's what we're learning to become is really what the game is. And I think about that as we go through the wheel, because I started to think, I'm like, we go through the wheel every year. Could they just listen to last year's forecast, last year's transit episode in February and get the exact same thing? And the answer is no, because one, if you've been following along with us, these are lessons that we are here to learn, and they're applied to right now. What's happening right now, and now this is what we're going to be in. But if you are doing the work, then these are energies that you're honing, that you're learning to work with. They're bringing up the right things in you that you're learning to get through. And you're able to interact with them differently. I don't like the term use necessarily, because I don't like this idea that we're like manipulating things. But it's this...
It's like a relationship.
Yeah. Like I see these coming up, and I see what February is. February is an emotional month. I see it as a month of creativity. It's a month of emotions. We travel through like the whole solar plexus center, which is all about emotions. So there's deep emotionality in this month, and every week it's going to be a new flavor of it. Same ice cream, different flavor. We're going through this emotional sort of menu that we have. And what does that teach us? I think that when I say emotions, people always get a little tight. They're not happy, usually when I talk about things getting emotional. But it's a chance to see what's there, what emotions are there for you, what emotions are coming up for you. But it's also, emotions are where our creativity come from. They're where our passion come from. They're where we learn what's under the surface. There's something that gets unearthed in us when we face our emotions. And I think that's overall what's coming for us. And there's so much here. I think, don't we have Pluto going back into Aquarius like tomorrow as well?
Pluto's been in Aquarius since November.
Didn't it switch back for like a minute and then go back? Or am I completely getting that wrong?
It's so slow. It's now in Aquarius. Pluto's in Aquarius now for the next 20 years.
Forever. Okay.
So it did do some back and forth dancing, but in November it got in there and it's staying in there.
So we have a lot this has been a big transition since the end of last year to now, and we're continuing that. And I think we've seen a lot of shakeup in the world. We have seen things change, whether you like the changes, you're comfortable with the changes, you're excited about the changes. Everybody has a different relationship to what's happening. But we start off this month just from the human design perspective. We kick off in the gate 13. And this hit me when I looked at it, because I think the time that we're in right now, I really feel that we need this energy. What can we learn from the 13th gate, which sits in the G center, which is the center of love, purpose, direction, identity? It's a gate of empathy. It's a gate of listening to people. It's a gate of really hearing what people are saying. It's about letting them into your heart. And it's about not judging, but learning lessons. And that hit me when I read that, when I looked at that in the chart, and I was like, I think that's something that is somewhat missing at the moment, that maybe we all, I'm looking forward to us being in the energy of empathy and seeing if we see any more of that reflect in the collective for even a moment, because I think there's a bit of a lack of it right now. And it's interesting how we go from that first week in empathy to the second week of revolution. I know you said something about shakeups, and I don't know exactly when that happens or what you're seeing, but we go into the 49th gate, which is the gate of principles, which is an interesting gate because I think in its highest, that energy says, this is no longer working for us. We're going to change. And if we don't change, we'll make the change. If you don't want to come along, we'll make the change. And we can see that as a really virtuous thing, that we fight for the change that we want to create. But it's also, it is one that demands obedience. And there is this like, can we take some empathy from that first week? Did we learn anything there so that we're not pushing people to just obey and to just fall in line and to just say it's all okay? And can we, with principle and purpose, stand up for the principles and purposes that we care about, the things that we care about, the stuff that we think matters? I think this is a time where maybe people are not feeling like they have much of a voice, that it doesn't feel like people are listening. And I think that's largely true. We live in like an echo chamber where people are listening to what they want to listen to. But it's an interesting sort of passage that we're going through. Open your heart and then decide what you really care about and stand up for it. That's where I see that traveling through in the first couple of weeks.
I completely am tracking this with the astrology. You know, this empathy moment that you're talking about is really strongly supported by, on the first, we have Venus, which is the lower human octave of love. It's the human receptivity of the beautiful, open, loving, empathic experience of love on Earth. But we have that in an alignment with Neptune and the North Node on the first. And so Neptune is the higher octave of love. It's the ideal. Some people say it's the illusion of something that couldn't possibly manifest on Earth. But we have those two in alignment with the North Node. And the North Node, all of this together in Pisces, is connecting us to the way that the ideal becomes the mission for the human experience. And I believe that empathy that you're talking about can land really, really deeply into our hearts on the first, if we can open and be receptive to that. And so that's wonderful. Actually, we are all on the other side of this. No one will have even warned you or prepared you for what's to come on the first. You'll be listening to this after the fact. And I want you to think about what opened and completely was received by you over the weekend. Because not only do we have that energy on the first, we've got this moment on the second that let the light get all the way to the core of something that has wounded us for a long time so it can finally heal. And now on the third, we're taking that healing and sharing that story anew. Today, as this episode is airing, Jupiter is moving direct in Gemini, and it's saying you've done so much work to reimagine the story that you're telling about your life. Now move forward and share that story from everything that you've just finally understood. So there will probably be a lot of people moving out and sharing that revolutionary truth. And this time, I don't think the revolutionary truth will be something about dismantling someone else's truth. I think we're going to find that a lot of people are just speaking deeply from that vulnerable core of themselves, from the true authentic frequency of themselves. And that, hearing that alone in everyone, will revolutionize the availability for that truth to be available for everyone to speak. So I think the revolution this time is one that touches the heart, that's not about creating an us and a them, even though it's so tempting to be there right now. You know, in the last episode, we talked about the victim, perpetrator, savior triad. And while that is definitely something on the 18-month evolution, like forefront for everyone right now, I think, and it's so seductive and it's so available, I think that we will notice our role in that triad as we get into February even more.
Absolutely. And what we were DMing about this, you sent me a graphic, and it really hit me hard when I started to look at it this way, because you start to notice that you always play a role in that too. And how can we be better stewards of whatever it is that we want to create by maybe not feeding into this dynamic so much? That every dynamic of drama has a victim, a perpetrator, and a savior. And so when you come in trying to, and I think that, I definitely fall into probably perpetrator and savior. I was looking at it and I'm like, what do I do? I feel like there are certain people that I can play the villain in their story a little bit, and then I take on that role and I feel like I am being, and then maybe I'm coming on it, then that's my victim because I feel like I'm being overtaken in that scenario. And then savior, well, I fix things, I help people make their way through. But how can I do that where, if those are the dynamics, can we do that in a higher expression where maybe we're looking to dissolve that or lighten that dynamic where it isn't, because when it's really in full force, it is just these three roles ping-ponging all over the place. So if you're listening to this, think about that. Am I a perpetrator in this? Did I start this? Did I look to make somebody else? Did I look to call somebody else out on something? Did I make this happen? Am I a victim where I feel like I am being persecuted, or I am being ganged up on, or I can't win? Am I the savior where I'm always coming in to seem like I'm the good one with the better thought? We see this, like, I certainly noticed it after you sent it to me on Instagram, which is ironic because we certainly see that dynamic play out on social media. The comment section is just an illustration of the post, people trying to be the savior, and then we have the other roles being played out in the comments and all of them rolling down if you have lots of them. And we've been in an emotional place. There have been a lot of shakeup, a lot of things happening. And I think we're pointing fingers an awful lot. So that was something we can do a whole episode just on that, period. But how do you see that playing with the astrology, with what you're seeing?
Yeah. Basically, if you take a look at being in the middle of all that, right? If you could get into a helicopter and zoom up above just a little bit, which is what Aquarius asks us to do. Aquarius says, why don't you detach emotionally a little bit from all of this entanglement and zoom up a little bit and see the bigger picture of this weaving of past, present, future, of the entire triad, and understand how you, in some ways, through your vibration, created this. You've created this to a degree. And if I'm looking at the way that the weeks evolve, if the first week, or the last week of January and the first week of February is like the Six of Swords, it's this moment where we're moving out of these choppier waters into some kind of new experience. Then the next week, the Seven of Swords, which is from the 2nd to the 8th, this is a moment where we get to choose if we're going to take a lateral shift or a vertical shift. The lateral shift would be something like, oh my gosh, I'm being so victimized here and you're the perpetrator and I need you to be the savior, or I'm going to save you. You're the victim. I'm going to be the savior, or whatever. If we decide to take a lateral shift anywhere on that triad, we become more of that thing. We're literally creating the triad for all parties involved. And so we get to choose, with Jupiter moving direct, if we're going to change our story in a lateral way, or if we're going to take a vertical shift in our perspective and see above every single triad of our creation to understand how it was created, why we're creating it, the fact that if we're creating anything, we are going to be experiencing some portion of that. So we get this opportunity. We still have Neptune and the North Node in a conjunction on the 7th. So it really is saying you have an opportunity to get very multidimensional about this. Get super into the fabric of your experience right now. The story, in especially the emotional story level, is only one tiny layer of the weaving. how can you get even deeper to like where this even came from, or higher to understand how it's a part of your evolution? All of it's valid. And so when we get to this next week, which is the Eight of Swords, the Eight of Swords is a moment where, bound by our awareness, we've done that higher vision, we've understood the deeper subconscious subterranean mechanism that created it in the first place. Now we get to be escape artists. And an escape artist is one who is able to, in a way, is able to neutralize and expand everything so that it releases the shackles. Basically, it's emancipating yourself from the mental slavery. And I, like, literally the Bob Marley song has been running in my head. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. That is what the week from the 9th to the 15th is. And so, before I go on, I'll just pause and see, what do you see in that middle week? What's the gate that you see?
So I want to just kind of like go off of that for just a second, because what it sounds like, and it's certainly like, I think where you go with this first, and when we're talking about being higher or lower than this dynamic, it's really just about not pointing fingers or needing somebody to be wrong or needing somebody to blame or needing to save people. It's the intention of where it's coming from. Is that how you see it? That dynamic?
Yeah.
How do you get above that? So we're being asked to do that we're given the ability to rise above, see it for what it is. But I guess the question that comes up for me is to say, how do we not feed that dynamic? How do we not feed into the negative aspects of that dynamic without just being silent, without just being like, because the other day was Holocaust awareness, was the 80th anniversary, I think, of the liberation of Auschwitz, and silence. I put a quote up from Elie Wiesel where he said that silence only benefits the oppressor, not the victims. And that's something I think right now we're being challenged with. There's things that we want to say, but we don't want to. There can be this feeling like, I don't want to get into it. But if nobody gets into it, then silence, the oppressor wins. Not the victims, not the thing you care about. But how do we do that in a way? So I'm curious what your take is on not getting caught into this triangle of drama that exists in all interactions on some level. But how do we get above that without being silent, without choosing to do nothing and apathy?
Good question. I have two options for stories, like tangible, real stories I could share. One of them is very personal and one of them is global. I think what I'll do is I'll share the global story.
Sure.
And if it segues into the personal story, that's great. So I heard that yesterday, government funding for medical research was all suspended.
Yes.
That lots of government funding was suspended for all kinds of organizations that depend, who have active projects, active research, depend on that money. Okay. Yes. So when the money goes away and these people are left completely fundless, there's obviously an experience. There's a aggressor, right? The aggressor is that the government removed the funding. We can pare it down to a specific person if we want to. We can really label a person as the perpetrator of removal of this funding.
And we do.
We can identify. What?
And we do pinpoint it, usually to one or two people.
Yes. And then we can also really clearly identify who the victim is here. And the victim is like not only the researchers and all of the scientists, but also the people that would benefit from their work in the world, right? So many people depend on the progression of their work in the world, right? So many people depend on the progression of these studies in order to help our health and public safety and all of this stuff, right? It's easy to identify the victim. And wow, the question is like, who's the savior in all of this? That's the tangible experience here. We can make all kinds of assumptions in our head of who the savior might be. Now, we could say nothing. We could be quiet. We could be complacent. We could be numb. We could not consume any content about this. We could look the other way, all of these things. Or we can look at that situation and we can mine So, what do we do? What does this really look like? So, let's pretend that we're taking a helicopter way above the scenario and we're looking at not only what experiences brought us to this moment in history,
Mm-hmm.
but so that's present for us. We can see
Right.
how we've been evolving through capitalism and government power. We can look at the American Revolution. We can look at all of this stuff, right? Those are the tangible evidences of how we got here. That's available for us to look at. Then we can get in a helicopter view and look at the frequency of this. And what I know about frequency is, and this is where maybe a personal story can come in. When I get into a helicopter and I look at everything, I am also able to notice times in my life where I've experienced something like this on a microcosm level. Times in the past where I was funded. Let's say I was married before.
Mm-hmm.
I was married to an organization, right?
Right.
And my life was funded by this organization. And when funding was removed because I got divorced, I no longer had a life that was supported by this very deep well of resource. And while that was highly destabilizing for me, and it definitely left me wondering how in the world am I going to fund this, the deeper mission inside of me knew that I would find appropriate alignment and support for the mission, that I was not actually dependent upon this huge organization. I have the ability to be supported by things that are in a greater alignment and frequency. So when I left that organization with nothing, because it was cut off, I opened myself to the possibility for much more energetically aligned resource to reach me. And it did. And I'm literally where I am today because I didn't let my life be supported by the organization. Now, let's say that you're a scientist right now and you've been working on something for MRIs or whatever, human development, and your funding just got taken away. We could focus very heavily on the loss. Oh my gosh, I'm going to get 1,000,000 attorneys. I'm going to go against my ex-husband. I'm going to get him to give me all this money because I don't know what I'm going to do. So we can do that. We can sit, oh my gosh, the administration needs to make a change and continue supporting diversity, right? That's another piece of this. We could do that, or we can understand that more aligned resources and funding are going to potentially be available to those organizations now that are a more appropriate energetic match. And the mission is bigger than any kind of physical support that it gets. The mission is not bound to the humans even that are trying to bring the mission into fruition. Of course, this is a high level understanding,
Mm-hmm.
but if we're really stuck on this third dimensional experience of the circumstance, we won't actually connect to an energy source that's far more abundant than government funding or your ex-husband, for instance. There
Right.
are resources that are far more aligned and abundant, that if you had the old resource in place, there would be no space to receive those more highly attuned, aligned, and abundant resources. And so that could be doing nothing. But can you imagine if I used my voice to speak up against the perpetrator that took away the funding for the scientist? If I spent my voice talking, like fighting my ex-husband for years for him to give me resources, how
Mm-hmm.
much of that energy would actually be completely wasted? What if the action is you begin understanding that there are adjacent possibilities that provide far greater alignment, far greater support? Where these things, do you know when you try to put something through the government, it could take years and years of hoops and red tape to get something approved properly?
Of
Do you
course.
know that if you go into a different sector and you're resourced in a completely different way and you're using different technologies and it's privately funded, you can move at a much, much faster pace. And it can get into the hands in a more sustainable consumer way where millions of people, billions of people are supporting the project rather than one massive funder.
Yeah, I hope that potential is realized for the organizations that are now in this place. And let's face it, too, whenever we go through those transitions, there's a period of pain. It
There's a period
doesn't
of pain.
There's a period of pain. And I think that we're going to go through that right now. There's going to be pain. There's going to be people that are, and look, as we've talked on here a million times about the 2027 change. And that is one of the things that comes up this month too. At the end of the month, we have our 3740. The sun will be in gate 37, which is it's a gate of loyalty, a gate of friendship, also in the solar plexus center. And its pairing partner, its programming partner is gate 40, which is the gate of aloneness, which these two together create that channel of the bargain, which is part of the cross that we're under now, the cross of planning. And when that goes away, I remember always hearing people talk about when 2027 comes, all of our government institutions are going to fall, they're going to crumble. No one's going to have any money. No one's going to be able to eat the meat. There were all of these predictions, and they were very, very doomsday in a lot of human design circles. And the more I look at this and the more I just sort of kind of sit back and watch and notice and do my own contemplation on this, 3740 is ultimately about trust. And what we're seeing is the breakdown of trust. We're starting to see that the background frequency of think about it, like we were living in a world that was propped up by the energy of trust, that we need trust, that trust is important, that trust exists. Look, I take care of you, you take care of me. We all take care of each other. That is the energy of this that has been the dominant frequency in the background for all of our existences. No one has been alive since it's been 400 years that we've been under this. So it's been happening for so long, nobody knows any different, that suddenly now with that starting to go away, it's in its final days, it's doing its last march, so to speak. I think that is the question for me is, where will the trust be? Where are the bargains? Are we going to be open to partnerships? Are we going to be open to, and I do think that there is potential for that to usher in a new phase of partnerships, into a new phase of what it means to be in relationship with people, with companies, with business partners. And how do we make that work now when it's just people doing it and it's not something that is unconscious to us and out there in the weather causing us to live the way we live? Mm-hmm. So that I jumped to the end of the month there, but it's fit with what we were saying here and what we were talking about. It's a lot of change and there might be pain. And we're going to see things evolve, but nothing happens as like a big bang overnight. Like what we're talking about now, what we're watching now, what we're seeing in February, that third week you asked me what I saw. What I see for human design is it's this combination of, we go from like the full moon, we hit gate 30, which is called clinging fire. And when I think about that one, it's the emotional need for an emotional experience. It is, I want change. I want something new. I've got dreams, and God damn it, I need to make them happen. Otherwise, I'm going to be super bored, and I don't want to be like this, and I don't want to stay like this. I want to change. 30 wants to change, and it wants to, it has these big aspirations. And the Achilles heel of it is it can get really disappointed really fast. It has these high hopes, and then when it doesn't meet the expectation, and that is really the key, is to not get caught in the expectation with that one. If you expect too much, it's detachment. It's the emotional lesson of being emotionally detached, being so committed energetically to what you want and and the intentions that you have, without being emotionally attached to the specific outcome. And when you go from that, we go right into the gate of abundance, which is about abundance is more than just material stuff. And can you be grateful for what is here? And can you connect to a higher level of spirit from this place? Can you take those hopes, dreams, desires, not be attached to the outcome, and then actually sit in the abundance of it all, of what it really means to be abundant?
I am so pleased that you brought that up, because that was one of the bullet points on my list of things that I wanted to talk about. And that is definitely the energy I see that this month ends us with. And I literally wrote, release attachment to the way you experience the small dream or the watered down version of it. and the way it showed up in the past, so that you can open up to the abundance of how the universe is trying to give to us. And the metaphor that I've been using recently, with specifically with I've been having a lot of conversations with women lately about divine masculine and the role that men play in our lives.
Sure.
And so, like, world level of this would be, imagine that you believed that all of the love from divine sky daddy masculine have to be filtered down and in through one mortal man. And and I'm specifically like just talking about this dynamic. I know there's a lot of ways to receive masculine energy. And so there's just one paradigm of experience that is a little bit, it's very common, where a woman feels that this one lover should be able to give her all of the love that the universal divine masculine wants to give her.
No
And
pressure.
so, no pressure. So she looks laterally at this man and she says, I want more. And he says, I don't think I'm enough. I don't think I'm enough for you. Like, the cry, the deepest wound of the masculine human man is, I'm not enough. And the deepest wound of the masculine, or the female, feminine, whatever, like female, is, maybe I'm too much. And so maybe I want too much, maybe I need too much, and maybe he's not enough. And in this dynamic, it's true. Mortal humans are never complete proxies for the divine. We are mortal. Our mothers are not complete proxies for the divine mother. Same with our father, right? And so we have these human people in our lives that we expect all of divinity to be filtered through, and for them to be a proxy for all of it. And so we are divinely disappointed in the way that humans can't continuously be that divine proxy, right? So we think it's their fault. We find all the errors. Like, if they fix these errors, which is very Virgo, and we have a South Node in Virgo right now, if we fixed all these errors in this human person, they would be able to give me all the divine love that I deserve and need. So please just get fixed. Just fix yourself. Right? Or I'm going to fix it by getting rid of you so I can find someone who's a better match to all the things that I need. So we are releasing that attachment, which that's an attachment to circumstances that we think we need to have in place in order to feel happy. We're releasing that. And guess what? If you release the pressure of these human mortal men to being that, then you open it up for the divine to deliver it through every single avenue that exists. Now suddenly the barista giving you your coffee, and the client paying you money, and the freaking person at the crosswalk that's letting you cross and smiling at you, every single one of them is giving you the abundance of the divine, the abundance through every single vessel.
I was going to say, yeah, because I'm obsessed with detachment and what are we attached to, and detachment, because it is really honestly the key to kind of everything. Like, if you boil it down, usually it's, what are you really attached to? What are you really disappointed about? What are you, that we can usually find something that's going to make whatever situation you're pissed off about or wishing you could change, usually has something to do with detaching. Let go. And so much of that, and what I was hearing there too, made me think of it, is, let go of the way that you think it needs to be. Let go, like, could it come from different places? You were talking about it in terms of a man and masculine energy, and we're talking about a lot of things there, not just men. But from that energy of when I was talking about gate 30 and detaching from the outcome, not being emotionally attached, there is so much of the shadow of gate 30 that says it's got to be this way. It's got to be like this. And I think we're in a time right now where, with the North Node, we've just moved human design. Weirdly, our gate straddles. While we were in Pisces, the gate hadn't changed because we were in like the last lines of the gate. It was like a little, not as clean as in the astrology, but we're now, I believe today, we shift into the 36th gate and the 6th gate in the South Node. And that's, Pisces and Virgo. And what we're getting there is, this is us being called to something new. We're called to change. Things are not going to look the way that we want them to. We're going into like this place of crisis. We're going into this place of like deep, deep change, and things are not going to look the way that they've always looked. So I think we're absolutely being called, not just now, but, and again, if you look at these things that we're talking about, these themes that we're talking about, it's not just, okay, today you're going to feel this and then it's going to go away. It's no, this is setting us up to deal with what's coming next. And if you pay attention now and you process this now and you learn these lessons now and you gather its wisdom, then you have a better chance of being in a better place emotionally, energetically, spiritually, physically, when the other things come. That we're going to go through a lot of change. Like this is going to be like I said in the beginning, you might like the change, you might not like the change, you might think you like it, and then it comes and you go, that wasn't exactly what I thought it was going to be. But whatever it is, can you let go of the way that you thought it had to be or what it has to be? And can you just be open to the next best solution, whatever it may be? And that, I think, is the energy of 30. It's like you still get to have your hopes, desires, dreams, but can you let go of how they come and materialize? Can you say, I'm so committed to that dream, that feeling that I want to have, because it's a gate of feelings. It's actually, some people refer to it as that we don't want the thing, we want the way the thing makes us feel. Can you get really attached to the feeling where you're like, I am so committed to that and it is mine and I'm feeling it right now and I get to have it, but I release how it will make its way to me because that doesn't serve me. I'm open.
Can you see how this is so completely related to the metaphor that I shared, or the story I shared earlier around like resources and funding for the scientists? Like
Absolutely.
the scientists have the dream. This whole month is exactly this. Can we release our attachment to the specific circumstances that were probably not sustainable? They were probably a tiny bit misaligned energetically. They're safe and comfortable and an eddy of neutrality, yes, but this entire month be an opportunity to see any disruption of the circumstances of our lives being a massive timeline realignment. And when I say massive, this could be so subtle. This could be like, massive doesn't have to be catastrophic or chaotic. It could be a perceptual shift that has us moving from a completely different perspective.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting for sure. That was what I had for this month. Is there anything else that you're like, I want to make sure that I say this, I want to leave them with this? Anything that you want to leave the listeners with?
I have a question here that says, what is the role of the creator, the human, and the dreamer? I think that's the question that we're answering this year. What is our role as creators, humans, dreamers? And I believe this month will answer that question.
So put that in your pocket as you're going through the month. Ask yourself, what's our role here? As creators, as dreamers. What was the other one? Creators, dreamers, humans. Yeah, we'll leave you with that. And just, if this is teaching us anything when we go through emotional gates, particularly for those of you who are not emotional authorities, this isn't your everyday dealing with emotions, this can be uncomfortable. But can you see it as something that's serving you? That you are working out your emotional muscle. Like you have leg day at the gym. This is emotional month in the spiritual gym of February. So can you just be gentle with yourself? Can you pay attention to the emotions that come up? Can you wait? Because if you are activated emotionally, which many of you will be, because we're going to have emotional gates that are going to connect to the other gates that you have, that the lesson with emotions is always to take time if you need it. You may not know as spontaneously as you are used to knowing this month. That may happen for you, depending on what your gates are and what they're connecting to. I think that the greater lesson, I always teach emotional authorities, so it goes for everyone this month as the lesson, that just because you're slowing down now and you're taking your time and gathering your wisdom, you're trying to figure out, like, how do I feel about this? It is not necessarily slowing you down. That thinking will slow you down. So you have to say, this is just what's needed of me right now. When the answer comes, it will be the better answer. It'll be the thing that moves me faster. It'll be the thing that keeps me from making the wrong decision. So I am comfortable waiting. So thank you, Christina, as always, for being here with me. It is, like I've said a million times, it's not the same without you. So thank you for being gracious and giving us your time, lending your wisdom to the show. And thank you for listening all the way to the end of this episode with us. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. And remember, in order to have an unshakable business, you must first become an unshakable human. So thanks for letting us help you become unshakable with human design, everybody. We'll see you next time. If you love this episode and you're a fan of the show, please show us the love on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you're listening to the show, and leave us a review. And if you'd like to connect with other entrepreneurs on their human design journey, join our free Facebook community, Human Design for Entrepreneurs. Go to NicoleLaino.me/podcast links to join the group, book a human design reading with me, or access our free human design resources. We'll see you there.